Don't apologise to us anymore, BBC. Stop the paedophiles in your organisation.
Let's move on to our main news this evening. Would you trust this man with your children?
Only use those sources that you trust.
No, I didn't think so, because he's a grubby little paedophile who was caught with more than 40 indecent images of children, including 2 videos showing a child as young as 7, potentially, being abused. That man, of course, is the BBC's latest child abuser, Huw Edwards, an arrogant and repulsive individual who still pockets £300,000 a year of his BBC pension, despite being convicted in 2024. The very fact he walked free from court on a suspended sentence, well, that alone was a horrible stain on the British justice system. But I've been thinking, a man with a shred of dignity about him after that would have kept his head down and maybe sent himself off to a desert island somewhere to think about the disgusting life decisions he had made. But not Huw Edwards. No, not Huw Edwards. The 64-year-old is now understood to be having talks with Channel 4 about making a television programme in which he'll, quote, make his case about the child abuse scandal which brought him down. A truly astonishing revelation tonight, if there ever was one. Now, why would Channel 4 ever entertain the idea of platforming a child abuser? I have no idea. But then again, this is the same degenerate outfit that brings us shows like Naked Attraction and, more recently, the sex scandal hit Married at First Sight. Edwards' big comeback plans come after a Channel 5 drama titled Power, The Downfall of Huw Edwards, was broadcast in March, when the former BBC man said the programme was a, quote, one-sided account. After its release, Edwards said in a statement, "Other opportunities would arise later this year for me to state my case and to challenge the misleading or fabricated claims made in recent coverage. Serious questions," he said, "still remain to be answered, and not just by me. It will now take some time for me to produce my own accounts, and until then I do not intend to comment any further." Just to remind you, viewers and listeners, he was convicted in the court of law. So, is that going to be with Channel 4, this new collaboration? Because the Sunday Times certainly thinks so. The paper today reports that while details of a possible programme are secret, a source told the newspaper that Edwards would want to discuss some of the issues raised in psychiatric assessments from court before his sentencing, including his medical conditions. It may also address his troubled relationship with his father and, well, his name was Huw Edwards. He was a Welsh academic who died in 2010, which was cited as a source of long-term anguish connected with his offending. How insulting. Let me be frank here. I don't care what Huw Edwards' childhood was like. I don't care about his relationship with his father, or if he ever had one. I don't care about his woe is me excuse that somehow sparked an attraction to children. And why he thinks anyone else will care is beyond me. And what I do care about are the poor little souls pictured in those videos and pictures that were found on Edwards' devices. I care about their purity and their innocence being stamped out by vile, demonic paedophiles, while losers like Edwards sat at home leering over them. I care about the poor families and carers of those children who forever have to live with the nightmare that they weren't around to save them from the worst crime humanity has to offer. And I care that a low-grade, sorry excuse for a man like Huw Edwards is still free to walk the streets of Britain instead of being behind bars where he belongs. So, should it go ahead, the programme is expected to be broadcast after mid-September, when Edwards' 2-year suspended sentence concludes. But I've got a better idea for you, Mr. Edwards. Take your BBC pension, salvage whatever shred of morality you can muster from the depths of your sorry little life, and disappear from public life forever. We have approached Channel 4 for comment, but it's understood that Edwards has spoken to several other media organisations too. Right, my panel are here with me now, Sarah Firth and Simon Hankinson. Sarah, this guy is arrogant beyond belief. He's a repulsive, grubby little paedophile. And why he thinks he has the delusion that anybody would care about his case, quote unquote, in the paedophile scandal that brought him down, I do not know.
Yeah, I mean, if ever there was an argument for bringing back the death penalty, it is people. I mean, he admitted to possessing images that featured child abuse, and it was category A, so very, very young children. Appalling, abhorrent. The debate about whether Channel 4 should interview, you know, that's an old journalist ethical question that we grapple with a lot. And I've had my fair share of interviewees and programs where I've had to weigh up whether it's in the public interest or whether it's serving the person on the other end of the camera, like the murderer, the terrorist, the foreign fighter, whether it's just giving them a platform to give their side of the story, in which case, you know, there isn't a public interest argument. What I do think, though, with this issue, with what's happened with Huw Edwards, if it's handled right in the context of how this program's made, who makes it, whose voices are platformed, the reason why, and I've had many people say to me, why did you interview that person? Why did you give them a voice when they've killed so many people? The reason is because, you know, it comes back to Hannah Arendt's The Banality of Evil, right? We, in the media, can portray these men as monsters. He was one of the leading media figures in the UK for so many years. So many people respected and knew Huw Edwards. How was this man? He's not a monster. He's a man who was represented by an industry, a network, very well respected. How was he able to carry this out for as long as he did? And to get to that answer, we do need journalists' investigations into the systems around how people like Huw Edwards are able to operate and do this.
Interesting point, although I would say it's being reported by the Sunday Times, Simon, that it's going to be a woe is me case about, oh, my dad was bad and I had a bad relationship with my dad. Yeah, you and everyone else, pal. Doesn't mean we grow up to be child abusers and download indecent images of kids. That's just trauma. You either look, I'm not a psychologist, but when you go through tough times, particularly as a child, either you use that as rocket fuel and motivation to say, yeah, I'm going to do better than that. I want to get away from that as far as I can. Or if you're of the inclination, you know, you're not very aware, really, you're not very conscious about how things work, you'll just repeat the behaviour. I don't want to hear Huw Edwards' sorry, lame excuses about why he went on to download videos of a 6 to 7 year old child being abused. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know the how he got away with it angle. I think that'd be interesting investigative journalism, but him explaining himself, not so much. And I was listening to a writer, Dr. Deborah So. She wrote a book called Sextinction, and she's a professional sex researcher, and she said that the evidence shows now that it isn't nature, it isn't nurture, it's nature. That most people who are pedophiles are born, they're wired that way. It's not what happened to them, child abuse. That's often an excuse that they will use, that they will give to try to elicit some sympathy. So this is an interesting way to look at it, and if that is true, then like you said, you know, everybody has their troubles growing up. There are lots of people who've had horrible childhoods who turn into fully functional adults, and whatever you desire, if it is relations with children, don't do it. It's just the absolute rule number one.
Yeah.
And I personally don't care what the excuse is.
They should be castrated. I think when you talk about deterrence, that is the most appalling crime imaginable, and that is justifiably should bring back the most extreme form of punishment.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very basic. I mean, they give castration drugs to trans kids more often than not, so why not give them to paedophiles like Huw Edwards? Disgusting little pig. Paul Cox, what's your take on this?
Look, I mean, how can you say much more than the other peeps there? I mean, it's abhorrent, isn't it? It's one of those crimes that absolutely no one should be given any leniency towards whatsoever. What I find astonishing is this won't be the last paedophile to work for the BBC. Right now, there will be a paedophile working in the BBC. It's a farm for paedophiles. It's just continuous. And one of the reasons that Huw Edwards believes that he has a right to tell his story is because he worked amongst that organisation. And that organisation made people feel that this was not such a bad crime, because it always happened. Each generation had a leading presenter or newsreader that was involved in this disgusting stuff. I think we need to get to the bottom of why people at that level, at such a big establishment, believe it's perfectly okay to some degree, and it's only a problem when you get caught. And every time the BBC do get caught, they issue the same apology. Don't apologise to us anymore, BBC. Stop the paedophiles in your organisation. It's really simple. There'll be one there right now, Ben. I guarantee it. There's one right now that we might not even hear about until the 2030s.
Oh, goodness me, Paul. Well, look, I hope not. And I'll give them the benefit of the doubt by saying, you know, know. Hopefully there are no more paedophiles at the BBC, but by that metric you can probably say there's paedophiles everywhere, and I'm sure there are. I mean, the whole thing just disgusts me. Huw Edwards. It's the arrogance that he thinks that anybody wants to hear what he has to say about his disgusting crimes. As I said, just take your 300k a year pension, which is no doubt being paid for by licence fee payers. Take your 300 grand a year. You're very privileged. You're very lucky on that front. Go away and think about what you've done and maybe what you would have done differently. Nobody else wants to hear from you.
No. I mean, look, I find this stuff harrowing. I don't know anyone who doesn't, to be honest. I'm not unique in that. You know, I'm certainly not the victim of any of these crimes, and the whole idea of this is just absolutely and utterly disgusting, which is why we are so quickly repulsed. 99% of the world's population are so quickly repulsed by this. You know, children need our protection, and when there are people like this that we're told we can trust, it just makes it a million times worse, particularly when it's at the epicentre of essentially British culture, which the BBC was. And you know what, I make no apology. I'm sure that they don't actually set out to farm these people, but you know there is a problem. There is a huge problem there that's gone on for 50+ years, and at the top of the Labour Party, and I'm sure within the Conservative Party, our establishments are absolutely riddled with this stuff. We have to question it. Why is this the case? Huw Edwards should not be allowed to broadcast anything ever again. You wouldn't do that. You know, you wouldn't just you wouldn't call up Rose West and say, you know, do you want to do a podcast with me? This is the equivalent. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I will say, in the interest of balance, the BBC, I'm sure, would say they're not a farm for paedophiles. Yes, they've got a track record of harbouring certain degenerates over recent years, but I guess there is no proof that they are a farm for paedophiles, and they deny that if they gave us a comment on the matter. Right, gbnews.com/you'll say. Let me know your thoughts on that story. Huw Edwards, would you be interested to see a documentary where he makes his case? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've got this all wrong and you guys would be interested. I don't know. You tell me. Right, let's move on. Former UK Attorney General Sir Michael Ellis has said that Palantir, the big US tech giant, should sue the Mayor of London, Sir Sadiq Khan, after he